have a couple of quick announcements, and then we'll turn it over to the stars of the show. So first of all, I want people to know that FY23 was a record year for new awards for U of L, with 176 million in new awards. So that is great news. That's all the hard work of all the people on this call and others, and Lee and other folks in our research development office. So it was a good year, and I expect that our research expenditures, which is really how we get measured, will follow that with a delay. The first quarter, thank you, Janet Johnson, who's on here. The first quarter of FY24, we were up 28% over the last year with 82 million in new awards. So it was a good start to FY24 so far. So that bodes well. When I say these numbers, these are available for everybody at the university campus on our website. They're updated regularly, so you can find all those numbers and reports on all of our metrics anytime you care to. If you just search for U of L research metrics, it'll pop right up for you. So they're no secret. We held new faculty orientations the last couple weeks for one on the HSC and one on the Belknap campus, and those were well attended. I hope that we helped to get folks off to a fast start in their research journeys at U of L, and I hope that new faculty who learned about the research town halls are on here today and listening to all the opportunities that are going to come their way. So I think that, I want to remind everybody the purpose of these town halls. Really, we hope to drive new research, new interdisciplinary collaborations, make people aware of resources that they might not be aware of, so they can do their work better, more efficiently, more effectively, and expand their research scope. And I think that I think that all the presenters over the years we've been doing these have done a really good job of doing that, and I'm sure that that's going to continue today. So I want to mention that in addition to seeding new ideas about ways people might collaborate together, which we try to do with these town halls and which you'll hear about today. There are internal grant announcements that'll be coming out in the near future. And Lee, if you've got questions about that, Lee can jump on and or at the end of the meeting today, maybe just provide an update on when those are planned to come out, if you care to. So we want to support those new collaborations with internal grants to get early stage data to be able to write competitive applications. And you've all heard from Rand Haley on our core facilities as well about the opportunities there that have been made available and continue to be available for getting preliminary data or additional data to drive new discovery and drive new applications. So those are coming up. So in January for the internal grants. So that's all I have for the updates. So I don't know if Lee, if you were planning to introduce John, you want me to do that? John needs no introduction, honestly. So why don't we just? We were
in well, actually, we decided to flip. We're going to have Rachel go first.
Okay, perfect.
You okay with that, Rachel?
Absolutely.
I knew you would be.
Great. Okay, so we'll turn.
So Rachel, do you want me to share the slides, or do you want to do it?
I'll go ahead. I can do it.
Okay.
All right. Hopefully you're seeing what you're supposed to see.
Looks good.
All right. So I wanted to try to stay within the 15-minute limit. So I may be flying through these, but if anyone has questions, I'm sure that Lee can monitor the chat for me and be sure that we get those answered. So I'm going to talk about the clinical trials unit today, which is one of my favorite subjects since I've been in the clinical trials unit since its inception. And I want to talk about our office, who's in our office and our expertise, what services we're offering to researchers at U of L, and how you actually work with us, and just talk about a few of the central services that we provide through our clinic as well. So this is our org chart. I report to Craig McLean, and then you'll see that we have a green team, which is our finance team. We have an orange team, which is our regulatory team. There's a red team, that's our clinical team. And then we have a team over there to the right that's a combination of blue and orange. That's our VA team that includes a clinical team and a regulatory person. So we have team members in Rudd, we have team members in Fraser, we have team members that are stationed in the outpatient building, and we have a large part of our team that works at U of L Hospital as well. So we're all over campus. So some of the administrative services that we provide is we have a formal feasibility analysis that we do with each project, where we have an interdisciplinary team that meets and discusses the project. It's our kickoff for the rest of the startup process. So we also provide budget development, and we have standard fees for our efforts as the administrative group and the clinical group. We provide billing compliance planning and oversight, not only for the projects that we're working on, but also for the institutions. So we're reviewing projects for every group that's doing clinical research to ensure that the billing plan matches up with all the documentation for the study. We do budget negotiations. We route the contracts to Sponsor Programs Administration and work with them to ensure that we have good terms in those contracts. And we also do the post-award account management for the projects that are initiated at U of L through our office. So we do not set up the accounts in our office. They're set up in the PI's department, but we help the PI's department manage those. We also facilitate the submission for the Institutional Review Board, and we work both with our local IRB and the central IRBs that we're able to utilize for each project. We help develop essential documents such as source documentation, all the FDA required documents such as the 1572 and financial disclosures. And then we have a system where we maintain the investigative site file, which is required by FDA regulation for each project that's under FDA oversight. We do some limited data monitoring and management, and we're hoping to increase that. We also have very limited support for IND and INDE applications with the FDA. We do provide audit support for investigators when their projects are audited by an external governing body or the IRB, internal and external audits. We do both. We also have the ability to give access to auditors and sponsors to our investigative site file through our system, so we can facilitate remote monitoring, which really came into play during the pandemic. And then we have the ability to do e-consent through our tool that has the investigative site file. On the clinical side, we also have a lot of services that we provide. We work with the PI to have sponsor visits. We manage all the source documentation for the projects, and we also create documents for that purpose. We do pre-screening, screening, recruitment, and scheduling of study participants. We also do subject participation and payment reporting to the clinical facilities. We conduct the study visits and coordinate procedures with the facilities such as MRI, DEXA scans, any other diagnostic procedures that need to be performed. We enter all the information on paper or electronic case report forms, handle accountability of the experimental interventions if they're drugs or devices. We have specimen processing, packaging and shipping that we provide, and we work out any logistics for the study as needed. So if you have a study, you don't know how to conduct it or where the resources are, we can help with that. We also help with data queries and data cleanup and AE and SAE reporting. And then I just wanted to show a few pictures of our outpatient research clinic, which is in the outpatient clinic building. So we have, this is the entrance to our clinic. We have a waiting area. It's small, but who needs people waiting? We also have 5 exam rooms that are fully equipped, so we can manage pretty large number of patients. We have a dedicated phlebotomy area with a chair so we can obtain blood samples. And then we have 4 infusion bays. So we have the capability of managing infusions within our clinic. We have the InBody 770 body composition analyzer, which can give great data to researchers. And we have more information on that if you're interested. So if you want a tour of the facility, you just need to email our service account, or I believe that's Chris Cunningham's number that's on this slide. So we're happy to give tours and talk about your projects. Typically, if a researcher wants to use our clinic, we like to meet with them within the clinic and work out those logistics. And then I wanted to speak to a few of our electronic systems that I've mentioned in passing. So we have the DocuSign. I'm sure a lot of you are aware that we have a DocuSign enterprise license that allows us to have 21 CFR Part 11 compliant signatures, and that comes in handy for a lot of the documents that we need signature. We also have Viva Site Vault, which is our investigative site file system. And we have Hydra, which is our internal clinical trials management system. And this is the system that we use to track all of our timelines, all of our projects, do all the external reporting to the clinical facilities, manage subjects, manage payments, and it's a subledger to the university. So we do a lot of management of the financial transactions. So we really work with investigators directly. We become part of their team. We're a team for hire, and we work with the investigator to interact with the IRB, Privacy Board, Sponsor Program Administration, hospital and clinical facilities, and the sponsor and CRO. So we're working right alongside the PI. And some of the things I wanted to highlight about our office is, again, we have a dedicated startup specialist that does intake on studies and helps with the feasibility process. We route all the startup type documents, and we do a face-to-face meeting with the integrated team to start the approval process for a study. We do timeline tracking. It's totally transparent. So we have a place in our clinical trial management system where a PI can log in and see exactly where we are with the project and any notes we have. And we do everything in parallel. So we work on the budget, the IRB, the contracting, all at the same time, as well as any clinical logistical setup. And then we work alongside the investigator to maintain the project. We have SOPs for all of our procedures that we use to maintain projects. Again, we have that electronic site or site file that gives sponsors access to everything. And we work with the investigators to report real time on billing compliance and payments, and we track enrollment limits, expiration dates, and accounts receivable through our system. So we keep our finger on the pulse of the project all the time. So to work with us, really, all you have to do is email ctu@louisville.edu. For industry trials, we'd like to see the confidentiality agreement and any questionnaires the sponsor has. For investigator initiated, we need a little more information. We need to clear it with your chair to make sure that they're okay with our fees. And then we just need to know what services you require along with, specific information about your project. Some other things that we provide through our clinic, we're the central hub for dry ice. So if you need dry ice for a project, you can contact us through our website and order dry ice and pick it up in our unit. We also are the central supplier for prepaid cards for participants on this campus. And one of the newer things that we started doing is we're recycling lab kits that sponsors provide for industry studies. And we've been able to help not only researchers on campus with some supply needs, especially during the pandemic, there were some supply chain issues. So we were able to supply some cryo vials to basic science researchers. We actually send out all of our expired phlebotomy supplies to a national training organization. And more recently, we've been donating coolers to a foam manufacturer in Indiana that can recycle those. And we've given our freezer packs to Dare to Care Food Bank. So we're helping some folks in the community as well with that recycling program. And that's all I have. Here's my contact information if you need more information about the CTU.
Does anyone have any questions? I don't see any in the chat, but oops, it looks like someone's got their hand up. Cindy, I think you were the first one.
Yeah, Rachel, Cindy Loxton from the Vice President for Research Office. If there is a new investigator just trying to collect some initial pilot study, do you negotiate at all for rates with someone that only has a small amount of pilot funding? Are the rates standard no matter?
Well, we have internal and external rates. So we have some pretty reasonable rates for small trials that are internal. And usually, we have all of those fees on our website. In fact, if you click on researchers on our website, they're all there, but we're always open to negotiation if somebody has some needs.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Thanks, Rachel.
Okay, thank you.
So next up is Dr. John Klein. John, you sent me your slides. Do you want me to do them or you want to share?
Now go ahead. You do it.
Okay.
I can barely talk.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Here we go.
Everyone see my screen?
I'm going to assume there's a yes in there somewhere.
Yes.
Yep. So what I'm going to talk about is a proposal we submitted on November 9th to the NIGMS for a Clinical and Translational Research Development Award. I want to go back first and bring anyone who doesn't remember what led us here up to speed. So if you go to the next slide, please. So in the past 17 years, we have attempted to either obtain for the university either a CTSA or a CTR grant. In 2006, the CTSA program was announced. We received a planning grant for a CTSA from 2011 or 2007 to 2011. Both the University of Louisville and the University of Kentucky both applied for CTSA awards. In each of those, our scores were better than UK's. And you know, I know there's this tendency to always compare us to the University of Kentucky, but here it was essential because whoever got the award first would freeze out the other institution. It was unlikely, in fact, impossible that the NIH would fund 2 CTSAs in a state our size. So sure enough, in 2011, UK joined with Norton Healthcare, and they committed $10 million to bioinformatics, and they received a CTSA. And at that point, we were no longer eligible in 2011. Next slide. However, what we are eligible for is the NIH Institutional Development Award. The IDEA program has a smaller and somewhat similar program to the CTSA, which was the CTR program. For those of you who aren't familiar with the IDEA states, it's to enhance biomedical research in states that have had historically low NIH funding, and we are one of those. You can grow your way out of that. We are kind of teetering on the edge year to year, but so far we are still an IDEA state. IDEA awards are really important to the university. We currently have 5 IDEA awards. There are 4 COBRAs, the newest one being in the Cancer Center and the Department of Surgery. They make up about 25% of all our NIH funding. So these are incredibly important to institutional development. And so this year we learned that the NIGMS was going to publish a request for proposals for clinical and translational research awards. It was only until the end of August that we learned that they had done something a little different that, you know, that kind of threw us for a loop, that they were going to have 2 types of CTR grants, a CTR-N, which is supposed to be like a CTSA in scope and to link up on a regional basis with other CTRs, and then a CTR-D, which is a developmental award to increase institutional translational research capacity. Before that, the regulations prohibited us submitting for anything in the CTR program. So now, in late August, we learned that we were eligible to submit a CTR development grant. Next slide. So the program announcement was pretty straightforward. It was $1.5 million a year. Not a huge amount of money, but still, you know, really helpful. And it was focused on research, workforce development, and infrastructure enhancement. Now, the NIH in its announcement refers to workforce development not only as for professional investigators like us, but also to people who are not university faculty, and even especially those who are community members who may have a strong interest in a problem that needs clinical research. So above all, this is to build capacity. When we organized as a group, we felt like there were some real strengths that we could build on. One you just heard about, and that's the clinical trials unit that was created, I guess, about a decade ago. We had some early investment from CHI back when Kentucky One was managing the university hospital. We felt we had outstanding community engagement cores in the CIEHS and as well as in the Envirome Institute and the Superfund. The Kent School, for every NIH grant that I've ever been a part of that's an institutional builder, the Kent School has been an absolutely essential part of that. Their Center for Family and Community Wellbeing has, you know, deep roots in community engagement, but also they're very, very good at tracking and evaluation of performance in NIH grants. And then the School of Public Health had some strengths and emerging, increasing strength in biostatistics. as well as hospital electronic health record database construction. And then finally, our informatics and research administration is something that's growing and needs to grow more, but we felt we had something to build on. Next slide, please. So this was the organizational chart. You can see a couple things just by looking at the very top. One of our goals was to write a grant where we aligned the University Medical Center, that's the whole HSC, with research in U of L Health, which is a thing that's an opportunity, but also a barrier at the same time. We went from one hospital, University Hospital, and an affiliated hospital, Jewish hospital, to now 11 hospitals, including, you can throw in the cancer center, multiple outpatient care centers, and a much larger footprint. That outstripped our capacity, but it also created a tremendous opportunity. Interesting, Norton Healthcare is on the organizational chart because Norton Healthcare has disaffiliated from the UK CTSA, and they are interested in participating in this, as is the VA. I'm serving as program director. Zhaipeng Wang is the deputy program director. We brought in, because it's such a large effort, we brought in some management expertise, terrific management expertise. And so In Kim from pediatrics will serve as the director of the financial management center and track the financials as close to a real-time basis as possible. And then Chris Cunningham, who currently is the administrator of the CTU, will become the COO of the entire Louisville Clinical and Translational Research Center. The NIH told us to have 5 cores. One's an administrative core, but down at the bottom, you can see Craig McLean is going to lead the health research core. Max Boachi and Ken Palmer are leading the professional development core. That fits really well since they took over the MD PhD program and have grown it in the last 6 to 8 months. Then the research design core comes out of the School of Public Health, and Mayin Kong is the director of that core and has already accomplished things that I didn't know that we could accomplish, and I'll talk about that in just a second. And then the community engagement and outreach core is Lucrease Kidd and Kelly Bullard Dunn. Next slide. So here's a graphic describing our administrative core, which sits in the center of all the other cores, and we'll get into some detail about that. But it's obvious that the administrative core interacts with the professional development, the research design, the health research core, which is actually a grant award core, and then the community engagement and outreach core. Next slide. So let's talk about community engagement and outreach, because we tried to put this at the center of everything in the grant. And I just want to mention a couple high points. They are going to form stakeholder advisory boards. Our focus is going to be on Louisville's West End, South End, and then we have partnered with Owensboro Health so that we have a rural component in the catchment area. We're going to develop pilot projects from non-NIH funds, but from funds committed by the president of the university for citizen scientists. And we're going to pair them up with mentors from the professional development core. So people who are interested in hypertension, hyperlipidemia in the community can partner with accomplished or experienced clinician scientists or other types of scientists, and then actually get a pilot project. They will also serve on the governance boards that are created for this entity. Next slide. The research design and compliance core is what we want it to be is a single source for clinical and translational research design, data analysis, compliance, and data management. and it's going to be available not only for research professionals, but also community health professionals. We have a significant number of physicians who are employed by UofL Health who do clinical trials. And so we need to support them so that they can do more clinical trials and feel that their employment at UofL Health is something that they get that isn't available by other healthcare systems. One of the most interesting things that happened, thanks to Maying and also Xiaopeng Wang, was we began a really good discussion with the UofL Healthcare Chief Medicine Information Officer and have begun to work out some longstanding kinks in having access to the national Cerner and Epic data warehouses from the electronic health records, but also from our own local EHR data. And that has been a real challenge, but I think it's actually just about worked out. And that's already, this program is bearing fruit. Next slide. Professional Development Corps, like I said, this is Max Boyachi and Ken Palmer. They have proposed to the president, who has agreed, a President's Scholars Program to purchase protected time for young faculty members to do clinical and translational research. It'll be a 6-month block where we pay their NIH base salary. We're going to have to work out some details for people who are paid higher than the base, but this is a real step forward because protected time is getting rarer and rarer for research, and particularly for clinical translational research, simply because the emphasis in any healthcare system is on the clinical relative value units, which is to say how many patients that clinician scientists can see. They proposed and Dean Bumpus approved a Dean Scholars Program, which is going to provide an entire gap year to train medical students in clinical translational research. It'll allow them to keep their place in the medical school class and do a year on a single project. And we think and hope that this will begin to develop a pipeline for clinical and translational scientists, clinician scientists, that will feed into our faculty. Next slide. Health Research Course, pretty straightforward. This is Craig McLean's core. He's the director. They're going to have both pilot and developmental project funds allocated from the NIH and also U of L. It's going to be about $3.9 million over the first 5 years of the program. We think that these pilot and developmental project funds will lead some people into a career that they might not otherwise have pursued. Next slide. Administrative Corps. We're going to at least double the size of the clinical trials unit. We're going to add expertise and really beef up the investigational device as well as investigational new drug expertise. We're going to create with Ted Smith a Center for Clinical Research Innovation. There are a whole lot of remote sensors and things like that, apps that are being used now in clinical research. These are wearables, these are telemetrics, and some of them are simply smart apps or apps on smartphones that are used to reach out and engage people who wish to participate in research. This is a big problem that sort of the Band-Aid was ripped off during the pandemic. As we became more isolated from one another, people didn't want to enroll in trials. They didn't want to come in to have their blood drawn, and a wide variety of new obstacles appeared. Some of the approach to that are these remote sensing devices and app-based devices that allow people to enroll, to update their data and things like that. But we need to know which ones are worth the money because none of them are cheap. And so the Center for Clinical Research Innovation will be focused on that. Financial Management Center, I've already spoken about. They're going to be inside the Administrative Corps. And then our steering and executive committees are within the Administrative Corps. We'll have representatives from Owensboro Health, UofL Health, Veterans Administration, and from Norton Health as well. Next slide. This is kind of the overview, and I wanted to mention that, first of all, I wanted to thank Kevin. His office was incredibly supportive of preparing this grant. The timeline was ridiculously short. You know, from the end of August to the beginning of November is not a long time. They were extremely supportive. And then, of course, the dean and the president stepped up. And if you want to read through that, the pilot project funding, U of L is going to support $1.45 million in additional into funds to combine with what's coming from the NIH. The education and training funding, things like the president's scholars and the dean's scholars, the university is going to commit $3.1 million, or has committed. And so finally, in summary, we also have financial support from Norton Healthcare. That's something we've never had for a CTR, and it's very, very welcome. And overall, the institutions we have partnered with, U of L Health, Norton, and Owensboro Health, have committed $11.9 million over the first 5 years of this grant, or approximately $2.4 million per year. You can't do everything you want to do with that amount of money, but you can get a lot of good things done. Next slide. So what are the opportunities? Well, one of the things we have to do is we have to align the medical school and the rest of the university with U of L Health. Folks, if you go out into the community, people think U of L Health is us. And while it's, you know, sort of this gargantuan healthcare system, it's just an enormous opportunity for clinical and translational research if we can connect ourselves to their data. It's a chance for us to engage with both urban and rural populations in translational research. We do that already with environmental research, but certainly this is a chance to do other things with it. And above all, what we want to create is a single point of contact for everyone who wants to do clinical and translational research that provides extra CTU bandwidth, research design assistance, mentors, pilot project funding, and protected time. Very smart guy once told me there are only 3 things that count in academics. It's money, space, and time. And what we're hoping to do is at least provide 2 of them. And I think that's the last slide. I believe it is.
So I just want to add thanks to John for the heavy lift, and Lee, and the consultant that we hired, whose company name I don't know what it is, but it was a heavy lift, to say, which is an understatement, by John and Lee and their teams. So thanks everybody and I know a lot of other people contributed mightily. The leaders of those different cores that you mentioned were pretty busy, as I recall. So nice job getting it done, getting it in, and at least we'll get feedback for the next round, if nothing else. What is the timeline? Do you
Study section meets in May. We've been assigned to a study section, sort of, kind of. It's one of those ZZ study sections, you know, so it's a special, which means they have no idea who's on it. But it will come, we will get probably, as we old guys say, the pink sheets will come in the end of May, and then we'll see what we can do with them.
Pink sheets.
That's what they used to be.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, John. Any questions for John? All right. Well, that's exciting. You know, and like all grants, I think that there was so much progress made in aligning U of L and U of L Health. You know, you're right that it's the same thing to anybody outside of U of L or U of L Health, and we need to recognize that. And I think that the work you did there will bear a lot of fruit, regardless of the outcome of this grant. So.
Yeah, and I'm just going to follow on that just real quick. I've spoken with the dean. He's going to speak, you know, with you and with the president. If we think this is a good roadmap, then what I keep proposing, and I'm optimistic, is that we should just begin to do this. It's silly to wait until May to get comments from a study section. There's so many just red meat things that need to be done that are outlined in here. So hopefully in the new calendar year, we can start to build some of the things that you saw on the slides.
Yep. Yep, agreed. Okay, thanks, John. Leslie, we'll turn it over to you.
All right. Hi, everybody. First, thanks for the opportunity to hopefully share some things about the Animal Care and Use Committee and the Comparative Medicine Research Unit that you don't already know. Is my screen sharing all right?
No, we don't see it.
Hang on here. How about now?
There it is. Yep. Looks
Okay.
good.
Thanks. Let me know if it gets broken. So I was asked to talk about some of the services that we provide. The Animal Care and Use Committee in and of itself has a lot of responsibilities. So the committee approves and provides oversight for all research, testing, and teaching involving animals at U of L. We ensure humane treatment by reviewing proposals for research before approval is given to conduct that research. The committee creates and approves policies pertaining to animals in research on all the campuses at U of L. We conduct semi-annual assessments or inspections of programs and facilities. And as of January, our reporting line has changed from the Dean of the School of Medicine to Kevin Gardner. So we also review all animal welfare concerns. We have a part of the compliance hotline that's available on the website. You can report animal welfare concerns regarding that. It gets funneled to our committee, and then our committee investigates all concerns and then takes action if those concerns are substantiated. We have a responsibility to suspend non-compliant activities and proposals, and we make recommendations to Kevin concerning issues associated with the animal care program. The committee currently consists of 11 scientists that conduct animal-based research, including our chair, Amanda LeBlanc, who is an awesome chair, by the way. We have 3 veterinarians that are voting members of the committee, 2 community representatives. A lot of people don't realize that we have community representation. Number one, it's required by federal regulations. Number 2, it helps with the diversity of the committee. We have 2 really fantastic engaged community representatives that are non-affiliated with the university, and they're also non-scientists, but they support animal-based research and the outcomes that come from that help both animals and people. We have 2 alternate voting members and 3 ex officio members, Sherry Hildreth, Torsten Hopp from DHS, and Kenneth Palmer, who helps us with a lot of the infectious disease. Kenneth was a former voting member, but when COVID hit, he begged to come off. So we made him, I at least got him to agree to remain as ex officio. All right, so just some contact information for anybody that may need it, who may be new to the university. I am the IACUC administrator, meaning that I make sure the committee performs all the functions. I supervise the office staff. Stacy Cantrell is our IACUC coordinator, who coordinates a lot of things. We'll get into the number of proposals that we review on an annual basis here in a minute. 2 new members of our team are Jason Bear, who has spent last 15 plus years as a scientist in a research laboratory, and Helena Rubel, who has been one of our large animal veterinary assistants in the past, and she also went and spent time working in one of the research laboratories here at U of L, and has returned back to us. And then Amanda LeBlanc, the chair. So services, our office staff can help with the electronic research administration system, currently IRIS, in the future Cayuse, which everybody wants to know when that'll be. It will be next year. I know everybody keeps saying, when's it going to happen? It will be next year in the first part of the year, and completing your IACUC proposal form. So if you have any questions about what sort of information are you looking for in this question, pick up the phone, send an email, schedule a meeting, and they're happy to help you with that, as am I. They coordinate training for research and faculty and staff, and we have a number of required as well as optional training opportunities for the research community. They conduct the IACUC proposal pre-review, so before it actually starts funneling to the veterinarians and the scientific and community members of the committee, a pre-review will take place in the office first, just to make sure all of the information has been completed. If there's any major questions, they can get those answered ahead of time to hopefully, once it enters the review process formally, then that will go more smoothly for the investigators or your IACUC managers. They schedule and coordinate the semi-annual laboratory inspections, which includes all of our 10 animal facilities on the 3 campuses, in addition to at least 100 labs every 6 months, which is quite a feat. I think that's most challenging. I think if I had to do that, Kevin would find me in a corner crying. So assistance with maintaining animal welfare compliance, and they also schedule and try to disseminate advertising about various seminars that we will provide the research community over the year. So the Comparative Medicine Research Unit, which is different from the IACUC. Some people think it's the same, but it is different. So the comparative, I changed the name a while back, from about 5 years ago, from Research Resources Facilities to the Comparative Medicine Research Unit, because I think it really, as you'll see as we go through here, really describes what we do better than Research Resources Facilities. However, some people ask me, what is comparative medicine? What does that mean? So, it's a distinct discipline of experimental medicine that uses animal models of human and animal disease in translational and biomedical research. We are responsible for managing, directing, and providing oversight of the University of Louisville's animal care program. We're responsible for provision of daily husbandry veterinary care for the research animals. And the Animal Care and Use Program supports research, reproducibility, and validity by providing quality standardized animal care. We monitor things very quickly. We have a very robust training program for our staff so that animals are handled consistently, cages are changed consistently, temperature, humidity, lighting is consistent, as much as facility infrastructure will support, I'll say that. The CMRU's mission is to provide the highest level of compassionate and responsible animal care in support of the university's commitment to animal welfare and excellence in research. So our unit contains 5 faculty. We have approximately 51 husbandry and cage wash staff, 13 veterinary technical staff, in addition to administrative and our IACUC staff. I have a number of hats, so I direct the CMRU and the animal care and veterinary care for the program, Associate Vice President for Research Services, which is kind of where my IACUC administrator hat falls, and then university attending veterinarian is essentially a regulatory title that's required. Someone has to be it, and it's me. So just as far as what we do for education, so through the IACUC office, we offer many training opportunities that are listed here. I won't go through all of them. We also provide support to the UofL Summer Research Scholars Program in doing seminars for those students before they start their summer projects. We also provide externships for the Lincoln Memorial College of Veterinary Medicine, which is in Harrogate, Tennessee. And we've combined laboratory animal medicine with anesthesiologists. And it's become a very popular program for them. We generally have more students that want to come here in their 4th year of veterinary college than we can accommodate. The U of L pre-veterinary advisors and mentors, Mary Proctor's been doing it for decades, and Jeffrey Kim is joining her in providing support to U of L students in the pre-veterinary program or interested in becoming veterinarians. We also provide shadowing opportunities for those students. And if some of them may be interested in the research side, and we've been able to connect them with research investigators in some instances. We also offer veterinary technology externships with Moorhead and Murray State University. We can handle about 3 to 5 a year, and that has been a good pipeline for us to, number one, provide outreach for veterinary technicians that might not realize that there are career opportunities for them in research, as well as to, like I said, a pipeline so that we have some contacts if we have vacancies, which doesn't happen that often with our veterinary technicians, but it does on occasion. And then coming in 2024, to follow up with what John discussed, Kenneth Palmer and Max Boiacci reached out to me to ask if I would develop a comparative medicine in research course, 3-hour credit course for the MD-PH students and graduate students. And then it also folded into the professional development core for the CTRD award applications. So we're currently working on that with my faculty. So what a lot of people don't realize is we actually conduct research as well. We don't just support it or provide oversight for it. We are PIs and co-Is as well. So currently funded grants and contracts, we have 8 and have about 61 past grants and contracts for about total of about $45 million there. And so as far as, it's not really a service, but it's a collaboration opportunity. And I know that one of the things Kevin wants to build more of with the Research Town Hall is to open up those collaborative opportunities. And so we are here and available, all of our faculty are, to collaborate with individuals, especially if you need to get into a new animal model that you haven't previously worked with and need some expertise in that. We've found that adding a veterinarian to your team on those grants can really be helpful toward receiving funding at times. So a lot of our research focus, I mean, we can do whatever is needed. However, it goes back to initially with mechanical circulatory support devices. I know Guru Giridharan spoke at a town hall here a few months ago, and he showed a really exciting picture of his device in the heart of a sheep. And one of our clinical veterinarians, Karen Powell, is a co-investigator on that study with him and was providing anesthesia for the animal, keeping that animal alive for that surgical implantation. So do a lot of work with Max Boiacci and spine model of spinal cord injury. have worked with Levi Beverly and Leah Siskin on swine model of lung cancer, papillomavirus, on and on. So one thing in particular, the notobiotic course. So one of the COBRA grants that John also mentioned. So Rich Lamont, Hari Badaluri, initially when they were putting in for that grant, needed some assistance with the notobiotic course. So Stephen Davison, one of our clinical veterinarians, established that germ-free mouse core, which is very challenging to do, and he's just done a fantastic job with it. His breeding success is much higher than what we hear from other programs. So it's the only germ-free mouse production core in the state of Kentucky, and they have actually shipped animals out within the state to other collaborators or just people that are not collaborating but want and have a need for the germ-free animals to do their studies. And then also, it's also become more regionally. So they've shipped animals to Tennessee, Ohio, things like that. Our faculty does publish, currently about 45 publications standing now, with a few in the pipeline. So every IACUC proposal to do research with animals has to be reviewed by a veterinarian. And so we process or review approximately 400 proposals per year. We also have to conduct laboratory inspections, and so we do about 230 of those per year, in addition to inspecting our animal facilities twice a year. So total of about 20 of those per year. We stay busy. So as far as
hey Leslie,
Yep.
There's 2 minutes left. So
okay,
I thought you were wrapped up, but I see another big long slide. So just let's
that's
try to wrap
okay.
it up.
Everyone can read faster. I can send it out later. So clinical care of the animals. We have state-of-the-art surgical facilities that we have people visiting here just to see our surgical facilities from other institutions when they're planning theirs. It always gets a lot of kudos during our inspections. Technical services, we have veterinary staff that can provide anesthesia, surgery, recovery, critical care for animals and studies, diagnostic laboratory. We also provide opportunity to rent anesthesia machines and provide training for that. Consulting, our veterinarians consult on animal model selection, development, experimental design. When we are collaborating with you, we help you to write the grant application, particularly the vertebrate animal section, as well as some of the specific games where it pertains to the animals. We then help you conduct the experiment, collect data, analyze data if needed, and then help to write manuscripts post-study. So we consult in anesthesia, analgesia, IACUC proposal development, and non-compliance prevention. So if you've got any concerns, reach out to us. We're happy to come visit with your lab and go over best practices with you to just help prevent non-compliance. Last slide, I promise, just about community members of this is our community engagement. We engage heavily with our community members, the Animal Care and Use Committee, high school tours of the facilities. Biomedical Research Awareness Day is the third Thursday in April every year. We try to do something for that annually. Kentucky Girls STEM, we participate in local and regional events to help support that. ALAS Foundation with community outreach, trying to dispel some of the myths surrounding animal use and research and the care that they receive. We're members of Research Academic, Diagnostic, and Regulatory Veterinarians, which is part of the KVMA, Kentucky Veterinary Medical Association. I serve on the Louisville Zoo Animal Welfare Committee. Fun facts, These numbers might be a little bit old, but I'll let you digest that yourselves. Here in February, we will be finishing construction on a new vivarium in the A Tower Medical Tower. And so we will then have about 100, just under 120,000 square feet of animal housing and support space. We get inspected a lot, and the CMRE veterinarians and IACUC office staff help take care of all of that for the university. And there's a laundry list of all the things we get inspected, or is entities that come and look up our nose and between our toes. And so we do that on behalf of the university, and may have to visit some of your laboratories as part of that, but we will help you with that. All right.
Thanks, Leslie. Are there going to be open houses to visit the penthouse when that opens up?
There will, yes.
The nicest. It's going to be the nicest space on the HSC, I'm pretty sure, with a view of the city.
The view of the city. That's right.
All right. Thank you, Leslie. I appreciate your all the work you do and presenting here. And thank you, the other presenters, John and Rachel. This was really great. Lee, did you want to add anything? Okay, you're muted, so I'm going to take that as a no. I saw your head shaking. So wonderful. Thank you for joining. We'll see you. Do we have a date scheduled for, or do we have one in a research town hall in December?
No, we're going to have one. The next one will be in January.
Yeah, next one's in January. Awesome. Wonderful. Have a great holiday, everybody. Thank you, Lee, for putting this together. Thank you to the presenters. Bye-bye.